Jag heter Jonas Birgersson och jag är som sagt ute och hasar runt i världen en hel del nu för tiden. Och jag tänkte berätta egentligen om ett par olika saker. Det är egentligen infrastruktur, hur vi ska kunna bygga den så att alla förstår. Och mina slides är på engelska så att you have some chance at least to follow the slides. That's the best thing you get. So I'm going to give you a mirror or something. Okej. Fiber till alla, det är den här saken vi har pratat om för att man ska kunna få det här bredbandet, att man bara slår på det som ström eller som ljus. Då måste man få fiber till hemmet eller man måste få fiber till källaren där man bor i alla fall. Och det är alla ganska överens om, och är man inte det så kan man komma till vårt infrastrukturseminarium som är väl 13:40 i eftermiddag. Då kan man få till livs. Men fiber till alla, det är ganska överens om att det är det bästa sättet att få till bredband. Det är säkert, det är billigt och det är väldigt robust. Och sen har det obegränsad naturligtvis överföringskapacitet. Men här kommer då, varför ska vi hålla på med detta? Varför håller jag och andra envisa människor år efter år liksom, och tjatar öronen av er om det här? Jo, det är för att det här är världens bästa investering. Detta handlar inte om småpengar utan detta handlar om, om man tittar på de största blocken vi har, det vill säga nationer, så är det så att investera i en digital infrastruktur, helst fiberbaserad förstås, det är den absolut bästa investeringen som ett land kan göra. Det är det man får bäst avkastning på. Och då finns det en tumregel som man har satt i sådana internationella sammanhang. Vi ska prata lite mer om vilka sammanhang det är och sådär. Men tumregeln är så här att för varje 10% du ökar penetrationen med riktigt bredband så ökar du BNP, bruttonationalprodukten, med 1%. Så har du 20% internetpenetration, vi kommer in, se till att en nation bygger äkta bredband och vi får upp det till sig 50%. Det betyder att får du 3% extra BNP-tillväxt i det landet. Det finns ingen infrastruktursatsning som är i närheten av att ge den sortens avkastning. Och ni ser då vad innebär att öka BNP med 3%, ja, det innebär att man dubblar välfärden på 24 år. Man dubblar levnadsstandarden i ett land på 24 år. Så hur i hela friden kan någon vara emot att man bygger den sortens infrastruktur? Jo, för att i de flesta länder i världen styrs av familjer och de styrs av ett särintresse och så har man en väldigt rik överklass och man har ganska lite intresse av hur det ser ut för hela landet. Men rent akademiskt så finns det inget bättre sätt att stödja ett land när det gäller dess ekonomiska utveckling än att bygga fiberbaserad infrastruktur. Det är därför jag och andra håller på med detta. Så min arbetsmiljö ser ut så där. Man sitter med en massa trevliga gubbar. Det är nästan bara gubbar så att jag önskar att det inte vore det. Och sen har man den snoriga svensken i sin tröja som är lätt att känna igen i alla fall. Och eftersom man jobbar utomlands i sådana här emerging markets som det heter så brukar jag säga att jag har den här tröjan för att jag är stolt över den och för att det ska vara lättare för folk att inte skjuta fel personer i panelen. För det är ganska många lokala intressen som man stör. Man ska tänka på att de här bolagen som utmanas av att man bygger den här äkta fiberbaserade infrastrukturen enligt en affärsmodell som ska jag berätta om senare. Det är alltså världens största bolag mätt på omsättning, de gamla telebolagen. De bolagen som tappade 90% av sin omsättning, om man tittar på tredje världen, när en kamrat, då naturligtvis Niklas Enström, införde Skype. Så det är stora pengar, det är stora krafter, men det måste göras. Och dessutom kan man ha lite kul, och det är ju synd om någon skulle sätta kulan i pannan på fel kille. Liksom. Det vill man inte vara delaktig. Jag har hållit på med detta ganska länge. Det här är sån här utlandsskryt, men jag började jobba med det här 93. Och det är lite roligt då. So for international guests, so in Sweden we were the world's first, we think, to do 10 megabit symmetric. We were the first to do triple play, and we did actually IPTV from the Sydney Olympics 2000. So just to give some background. We got a fair amount of attention for that. And the important thing, so är det okej om jag pratar på engelska because I want to share it with our international friends. Is that okay? So they prefer me in English. At least some of them get some variation because they heard me before. But so I'll switch to English so that for your benefit. So basically, we did this. We proved that you could build a new network. The B2, just very, very quick and short. But what we proved was that you could do a startup. 2.5 people and a binder could challenge the entrenched telecom and say, we're going to build a new parallel network. And this actually worked out, and it worked out with a profit. So in 7 years, this startup went from zero, no brand, no nothing, to having 27% of all of the Swedish broadband, and this is very generous, also calculating technologies that I personally do not think is broadband, such as DSL and DOCSIS and this stuff. If you look on the 10 megabit symmetric, in these 7 years, there were more than 90% to this startup. So it is possible, as a startup, to build a new network and compete with the old infrastructure. And this has been proven. Of course, the Swedish Broadband company did this in Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Holland, and also as a facilitator in Italy. Why hasn't there been more people to follow up? Because broadband infrastructure is very, very challenging. It's a lot of, invested interests, but not the nation's best interest. The nation's best interest is always to build a fiber optical network. Why is that? Well, this is just about, I'll quick this, I got a few words. This is just from my hometown in Lund. We had, a few innovations, and we just want to share with you, because most of you are from Stockholm area, that we're very happy for the support of Sweden to get the ESS, the European Spallation Source. It's probably the first and only time in our lifetime that in a small village with 100,000 people, Europe will invest $2 billion. So thanks a lot for that. That would be good fun. And also, by the way, we have some other local thing that we built. So 25% of everybody living in Lund is one click away, 3 seconds from getting a gigabit connection in their home. Of course, the connection is pre-wired, and then they have the portal, and they want to have a service. They click, 3 seconds later, they have the gigabit symmetrical. Of course, they get half a gig in Wi-Fi as a bonus, but that's just, details. So welcome to Lund if you don't want to move. So I also do advisory work, so old pictures from political people and me as thinner. And you see the red boxes. What are the red boxes? These are some of my clients that have been a little more successful. So of course I'm part of the World Economic Forum, as you know. These are the people where they throw snowballs at us in Davos. Again, you have to have the right shirt so they don't kill the wrong guy. And here you can see the ranking. So this is actually, on my list of clients that I didn't do an advisory to, they're on the top 5 at least. So there's something doing right. Probably it's all them. It's just a coincidence that they work with me as well. So there is a lot of interest now for Sweden and the open network. What is that? Why? And also Google, of course, as you know, come along to do this. But let's explain what it is. So this is basically the revolutionary idea that was here in Stockholm in '99. And this was not invented by me. It was invented by 3 guys, all of them, Fredrik, and Fredrik. And they are the real brains behind this open service exchange model. The only thing that I think is that they didn't realize the incredible global potential that they had. And they had a problem to make this operationally viable. So after a while, me and a few friends came along, the company was bought and transformed, and it's now been profitable for 3 years. But the key thing here is, how do you get this fiber to everybody? How do you pay for the deployment of fiber? Well, it's very easy. You have to combine 2 things that theoretically are outstanding. On the passive infrastructure layer, of course, it's much better to have a natural monopoly. Why? Monopoly sounds bad. Why? Natural monopoly is like airports. You don't want 2 airports very close. You don't want a parallel highway. What you want, if you have one building with the fiber into that building, and you have the means of investing into another building of fiber, should you put it into the building that already has a fiber, or should you put it into a building that does not have the fiber? Of course, you want to expand your network. If you can combine it with the top level, so this is the uniqueness. You have a natural monopoly, only one fiber going into the building, but in the open service exchange model, what we do, that we combine it with a completely open marketplace. Every single operator can sell all of their services on completely equal terms. So you have a full market dynamics on the top, and you have a full locked down, hard, natural monopoly on the infrastructure level. So theoretically, this is by no chance, there's nothing better. This is the best way if you can do it. The good thing is now in Sweden, we have more than 10 years of experience showing that this is really working. And this is what I think will be the model to build the fiber optical networks of the majority of connections in the world to come. So this is what I believe. And here is the tribute to Stockholm and Stokab. Stokab was one of the first companies in the world to get this. The municipality of Stockholm in '94 decided to take the different fiber assets they had spread out in different companies around. So the water company, the electrical company, they took all of their fiber assets, they put it into one company. And this company, to run the natural local monopoly on fiber, has only one business model. It sells dark fiber to all of the connection that wants it. And then every single operator can use it on equal terms. And this has been a phenomenal success. So Stokab have had profit margins of over 30%. So if you're Google, that's not good. If you're Microsoft, this is not good. If you're into infrastructure, this is a world-class, insane Olympic record. Everything above 10% return on investment on passive infrastructure is unheard of. And we have this in Sweden. It has been around since '94. It has built a huge network, more than 5,500 kilometers of cables in a pretty small area. And it has led to Stockholm becoming one of the best ICT regions in the world. And this is a phenomenal example. And this is not unproblematic. In Copenhagen, you tried another model. You invested about the same amount of money, and basically they lost 80% of that money. And they know it because the Dong network was closed and sold, because they did not run it as a transparent network. They did not sell to everybody in equal terms. So this is a phenomenal global success. Okay, one detail. So this is in Stockholm, how you build a fiber optical network. You see on the right. This is last year from Amsterdam. This is just different. But if you're an infrastructure guy like me, if you're not doing that, you're going to have a lot of OPEX. And if you talk to the Dutch people, they say, no, we also have a controlled environment. Look, the municipality is in the green and the commercial is in the blue. It's going to be, think 30 years, it's going to be a lot of fun things in Holland. Our college is going to say, what happened here? Did they try to bury spaghetti? Is this an art project? Okay, so this was the theoretical model I talked about, but it did happen. It has been running since 1999 in Stockholm. Stokab provided the fiber. Via Europa, Fredrik, and Fredrik, they were setting up the Via Europa. They were running the active components, they were running the Open Service Exchange, doing all of the things as an operator does, with the big exception of not selling any services to the households or to the corporations, but allowing all of the small service providers, or big, to come in on this neutral network and sell on equal terms to each and everybody, creating a marketplace on top where everybody can market exactly the same way. So the practical implication is that if you get a fiber to your building, if you get a fiber to your apartment, you're not locked in to one offering of services. Every single service provider that wants to come into the network will do so in an open, neutral, and non-competitive way. You understand? So you can click and choose, and people also have, Via Europa also has rules. For example, you cannot tie down a customer longer than 90 days, but because of competition, the average tie down in the contract is 30 days. And because the prices are pretty low, people have actually called customer care, and during the call, they went into the portal and said, hey, I'm not angry with you anymore. I'm not going to shout at you because I'm no longer a customer. So they changed provider during the call because the only cost is an extra month. And that's like 20 euros. And if you're a little bit pissed, that feels really good. So some of the Swedish service providers have a unique thing that they have not told the public about. They're running 2 call centers. One call center for people in open networks and another one for traditional contracts with 18 to 24 months lock-in time. Which one would you rather call? Do you think that they treat you differently? They sure do. So this is also in Norway, just to give you an example. This is how it looks in Oslo, for an example. Of course, I'm biased, this is my clients, but they run an open network. You can choose, you have lower price, high quality, stability, and it's all you deciding what mix of services you want. Okay, same thing in Switzerland, so it's not only in Sweden. In Sweden, this is in Kristianstad. This is the most successful open service exchange network. They don't do basically anything themselves apart from the passive infrastructure. So the local electrical company, they run the passive. They, of course, they invest some in the active network, but they have a system integrator to run it for them. They have a commercial open service exchange operator on the outside to run everything. Of course, they still use their own local brand. And this is just another example. Tele2, as a very commercial operator, have decided in Norrköping, because of the real estate company's wishes, that they have opened up. So they are running these 2 levels, and then of course they sell their own services, but everybody else on equal terms because they have a neutral layer in between. So if you put the demand to the market, it's really possible that a very, very traditional challenger, Tele2 these days, sorry if anybody's here, can really open up and still make a good business case. So it's a good model. Now, of course, this is some details, but just compare. So if you look on the people that does not have access to fiber in Sweden yet, so this is what you would be offered if you looked at Telia just a few weeks ago on their website. So 359, so you divide that by 10, then you get 36 euros for the 12 to 24, and then of course it's a 2.5 megabit the other way on the DSL. The best challenger, Tele2, they have very similar things, and it's 3 euros difference. But if you look on the open network like this instead, this was just from Lund in September, you could say that you got for 279, so for 28 euros, you got 100 megabit symmetrical, 10 megabit backhaul. Or you paid 37 euros and you got 100 megabit symmetric, just to compare. So basically the same amount of, so either it's 100 kroners cheaper, or for the same amount of money, you would be getting 100 megabit symmetric instead. And the red things here, because this was September, it's an important month, it was in Lund, it's an important month, students move in there, you were getting this for 5 months for free. And the 6th month, you pay this amount of money. This is what competition does. If you build a neutral network and you put the competition on top, this is what happens. Okay. And then you have unique things developing on this open source exchange network. So for example, there's a setup in Sweden called Open Choice, that you have one setup box, and with your remote control, you can basically choose between different TV packages. So I have this TV provider, I have this TV provider. Now, I want this instead, I can change, and I don't need to change the box. All of this is technically possible, it's just to find the right business models. Okay, and this gives better broadband business. And why is it important? It's important because we need to show that it's really a good idea to invest in building the new fiber optical networks that we then can run in a neutral fashion. Because remember that on average, an emerging markets country can get 3% extra gross national product just based on this. Okay, this is just details. So we're also very good in Sweden on doing services. Axis, the camera system that watches over you when you go into the subway in Stockholm every morning. Of course, a Lund company. So you create this nice kind of services so that you can have in your home. In Sweden, we don't have a lot of crime, and Lund actually is the safest city, it's a village, the safest village in Sweden. And so how do you sell these cameras? Well, the thing is like this. All of the main Allmännyttan have built this into their garages because somebody scratched a car and you need to find who you should pay for the paint job. So even if we don't have crime, we have these kind of things. Also a very popular application is that they use it and they watch what the dog is doing at home. Because when you're there, you're the boss. But what happens when you close the door? Well, you have the camera, you find out. Okay, so just to finish off, what I think is really, really good with Sweden, and then I'll tell something that are not so good in Sweden. Maybe I'll do that in Swedish. So in Sweden, we have created, insane amount of fascinating services. Niklas Zenström and Skype. Skype is one of the best global services ever. Developed, of course, primarily in Sweden, a Swedish guy and a Danish guy, plus a development team in the Baltic states. But it has been one of the biggest game changers anywhere. They're getting close to 400 million users. They have changed the telecom industry forever. It's the biggest carrier in the world if you look at international phone calls. And phone calls, of course, are for free. Sorry. And it came out of a piracy. You remember Kazaa? The Kazaa network, you could download it and share music for free. And then that evolved to Skype. So it's really interesting to see how Sweden can develop this kind of global services. We're only 9 million people. We shouldn't be able to do anything. And then you have these people, Peter Sunde as the spokesman for Pirate Bay. We can think whatever we like about the Pirate Bay, but it's a global phenomenon. Again, Sweden puts a list on one of the biggest sites in the world, and they do it basically as some kind of a dorm project. It's not very serious. They, doing these kind of things, and they have suddenly a huge service. And the same thing I see again, it will evolve. What happens now, of course, is that we see one of them, Peter Sunde, running this very interesting called Flatter. I think that Flatter could become and should become bigger than Skype. What Flatter enables, which comes very back to the first presentation, it allows people to share money with online content. Not because they have to, but because they want to. It has really interesting growth. Because when you can pay directly to the artist, when you can pay directly to the blogger, and you can pay in the film or in the music, once you like it, you just click. And the amount of money that you have volunteered to put into your account every month, if you click 10 times, that money, let's say 10 kroners, will be divided, and there will be money sent to each created person. So this is a really interesting development. But it just goes on this list. Anybody heard about Minecraft? Of course you have. Minecraft is the digital version of Lego, the Lego system. You can go into your virtual world and you can build anything. And it's really, really cool. And the one person that built this as a hobby project, it's still, I think if it's a pre-alpha or it's pre-beta or whatever it is, you can download it. And last month, he made $2 million. Because of people wanting to pay for his content. He has a free service. But people wanting to buy the game, he last month got $2 million. He's not a big brand. He's no brand. He just did this tool that was insanely great, and it put on the web. And in Sweden, we do these new services over and over and over and over again. Of course, we got Spotify, but in my book, without Pirate Bay, without shaking the old media tree, you would not have Spotify. So Sweden is really, in an impossible way, taking, at least sometimes, center stage, creating new services. And we're really good at it, but I have a big problem. I want to take this power and this entrepreneurship, and I want to focus it also into using it into big Swedish organizations. I want it in the healthcare system, I want it in the educational system, because in the same way that we're really insanely good at doing small teams that do global services and compete with everybody and win, without venture capital, without the smartness of Silicon Valley. We are not good at using this stuff in the big organizations in Sweden. We're taking a lame approach. We're going the safe, boring road. It's like now we're deploying a lot of PCs to schools everywhere in Sweden. That's fantastic. And then we do innovative stuff like using Microsoft and Apple. It's like, yeah, that's very, let's say, innovative. I mean, could there be any alternative to running an AD server? Well, you could do like freeware. Yeah, but that's like complicated. Yeah, for you maybe, but yeah, but the students, they don't want it. Well, I'm not so sure. They're here to learn. So I think that we need to step up and take some challenges into, let's say, the everyday life and be inspired by these phenomenal entrepreneurs that are doing a great job, because we have the infrastructure. Most people around the world, they don't have the infrastructure. They dream about the infrastructure that we have, and then we don't use it in all aspects of society. So I think that's a big letdown. And I'll tell you just a few minutes about a few really embarrassing examples. So I'll switch to Swedish. Så, vad som inte är så bra i Sverige. Här har vi skandal. Jag jobbar just nu i 15 länder. De flesta av dem är utvecklingsländer. I utvecklingsländer förväntar man sig familjer, dynastier, korruption och skandaler. Den skiten har vi här hemma också. Och det tycker jag vi ska ta och radera ut fort som tusan. För det har jag sett flera gånger, mycket nära med egna ögon, hur otroligt förstörande det är för förtroendet i ett land när man inte har rensat på mattan. Så bara ta några snabba enkla grejer här. Vi har ingen politisk ledning, vi har en flat maktstruktur som kan jaga enstaka fildelare, men när man gör den här sortens brottslig verksamhet som handlar om miljardbelopp och dessutom en massa möjligheter som krossas, då är vi otroligt flata, och det tycker jag vi ska sluta med. Okej, här står jag och säger en massa dumma grejer. Låt mig ge 2 exempel bara på varje. Telecom, att bygga ett markbundet digital-tv-nät för 5 miljarder för att man ska kunna sända tv åt ett håll. Det är inte så där jättesmart. Det är dock lagligt, för det var den diskussion som jag hade med riksdagen och lite olika människor där. Det sa att vi får ta hur dumma beslut vi vill, bara de är rätt underbyggda liksom. Så det är ju ett fint försvar tycker jag. Men jag tycker vi kanske skulle kunna se om vi skulle höja ribban lite. Vi kanske till och med skulle kunna ta bra beslut. Men mina favoriter på Telecom, de fortsatte, de gav sig inte. Utan de byggde upp en öppen kommunikationsoperatörsverksamhet. Det fanns redan ett antal privata bolag som gjorde det. 100% statligt ägt bolag säger vi ska bli kommunikationsoperatör. Varför det? Men då gjorde de det. Sen kom de på efter ett tag, efter rekryterat till personal bland annat mig, att vi klarar inte av det här. Så då sålde de en balanspost på över 1 miljard för 1 krona till ett bolag där styrelseordföranden var delägare. Till ett bolag där konsulten som skötte den här processen var delägare. Och så visade det sig häromdagen att de fick dessutom med 47 miljoner. Och när regeringens representant i styrelsen blev pressad om det här så sa han, nej men, för att man undrade, ska man verkligen använda statliga pengar så här? Då sa han, nej men det mesta av det var kommunala pengar. Som ni är journalister här, så Telia, van den Kvast eller vad han heter, jag vet inte riktigt vad han heter. Vi hade någon kul åklagare som var på hugget om det här med korruption och mutor. Telia hade väl köpt någon balbiljett eller de har köpt någon biljett till operan eller någonting som kostade någon 50-lapp mer än vad man fick ge bort. Och då var det liksom mutskandal eller sånt där. Det där, varför inte det anmält? Varför skrivs det inte om det? Varför är det inte anmält? Ta Telia. Telia åkte ju dit, de blev fällda i EU för prisdumpning när det gällde bredband i början med bredbandsbolaget. EU fällde dem, sa nej, ni har gjort dominerande aktör får inte göra på det här stygga sättet. Sen var det lugnt och fint i 10 år. Men nu är Telia på gång igen. Vi såg det officiella priset på 370 kronor eller vad det var för DSL. När de går in och tar affär idag på fiber, då får du internet, du får tv och du får telefoni för 200 kronor i månaden. Jag som en 200 kronor i månaden kramare tycker det är trevligt. Men det funkar inte om Telia får dumpa in sig på marknaden på det sättet. Och det kan bli dyrt om någon skulle anmäla Telia för det där igen som vi gjorde med bredbandsbolaget. För straffet är upp till 10% av omsättningen. Och då undrar man, hur tar våra politiker de här besluten? Vet man om de här riskerna av det man gör? Och sen det sista då, det är att vi har de här kommunala stadsnäten som oftast gör ett ganska bra jobb. Och sen har vi några exempel som är fruktansvärda. Man pratar om rogue states. Här har vi liksom kommunaltjänstemän som har blivit talibaner. Och det måste vi också styra upp. Vi har ju, uppe i Norrland har vi exempel där man då säger att man har upphandlat det här på marknaden för 0 kronor av en tjänsteleverantör och säger därför så behöver vi kan stoppa in det i hyran och vi konkurrerar inte med näringslivet. Vi har alltså ett offentligt ägt bolag som ger bort tjänster som produceras av privata näringslivet och det finns många sådana exempel. Men jag tycker bara att vi inte är värdiga det. Vi är så duktiga på så mycket annat. Så att slippa få den här korruptionen som man kan se utomlands på många olika ställen. Vi vill inte ha det i Sverige. Jag tror att tillsammans så kan vi bara sudda ut den sista sliden och sen så ska vi vara stolta över vår tjänsteproduktion och få in lite mer av den här Minecraft-känslan eller liksom Flutter-känslan eller Skype-känslan in i våra offentliga organisationer. Lite mer jävlar anamma. Och så ett par anmälningar och ett par fällningar. Så blir detta jättebra. Tack så mycket.